Welcome back to On the Same Page. We are on Daf Daled Amud Aleph of Maseches Brachos 4a, and we are starting 2 lines from the bottom of the page, or really the bottom line basically. The Gemara quotes the Mishnah regarding the opinion of the Chachamim as to what is the latest time to recite Shema. So the Chachamim Omrim ad Chatzos, you have until midnight. So we have 3 opinions in the Mishnah. We had first Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer said you have until the end of the first watch to recite Shema, which we said was that Rabbi Eliezer holds there's 3 watches, so the end of the first watch would be 4 hours into the night. And the Chachamim say you have until Chatzos, midnight, which would be 6 hours into the night. And Rabbi Gamliel said you have until dawn, which would be 12 hours into the night, all the way till the morning. So I asked the Gemara, Chachamim keman svir lahu. Who do the Chachamim hold like in terms of their understanding of the pasuk, the verse, that says that you recite the Shema b'shachbecha, when you lie down? Meaning there seem to be 2 possible ways of understanding b'shachbecha, when you lie down. It could be when you should say Shema during the period when people are going to sleep, and that's how Rabbi Eliezer understood. And therefore Rabbi Eliezer said, well, people go to sleep up until the end of the 4th hour, and at that point, basically everybody's already gone to sleep. And that's what the Torah means when it says b'shachbecha, when you go to sleep. The other possibility is that it means when you are lying down, b'shachbecha, when you're lying down. The time for Shema is when you're sleeping. Not to say when you're sleeping, but during the time when people are sleeping, which is all night. You have all the way until dawn, until the next morning. That's the opinion of Rabbi Gamliel. So ask the Gemara, Chachamim keman svir lahu. Who do the Chachamim hold? Like, how do they get this middle time of Chatzos, of midnight? So Ikar Rabbi Eliezer svir lahu, if they hold like Rabbi Eliezer, that b'shachbecha means when people are normally going to sleep. So leimru Rabbi Eliezer, let them say, like Rabbi Eliezer, that you have until the end of the 4th hour. Top of the next page. V'ikar Rabbi Gamliel svir lahu, and if they hold like Rabbi Gamliel, that b'shachbecha means when people are sleeping, that's the whole night. So leimru Rabbi Gamliel, let them say like Rabbi Gamliel, that you have all night, you have until dawn. Answers the Gemara, Le'olam Rabbi Gamliel svir lahu. Really, they hold like Rabbi Gamliel, and really they hold that me'ikar adin, strictly speaking, midoraisa, by Torah law, one has all night long to say the Shema. V'hadik amri ad chatzos, and that which they say that you only have until midnight, k'dei laharchik es ha'adam min aveira, that is in order to distance a person from sinning, from missing out. That really midoraisa you have all night, but midorabanan, the Rabbanan enacted that you only have until midnight to do it. That way they will ensure that people do it. How so? K'detanya, like we're learning a brisa, Chachamim asu siyag l'divrayim. The Chachamim put a fence for it says for their words, but really it means some say l'davar, they put a siyag, they put a fence around the idea, around the matter. In order that a person not come back from the field at night. Ve'omer, and he'll say, before I say Shema, I'll go to my house, ve'ochel kima, and I'll eat a bit, ve'eshta kima, I'll drink a bit, ve'ishan kima, and I'll take a little nap. And after that I'll say Shema and daven, because I have all night. What's the rush? Let me first go eat dinner and eat a bit and take a little nap. And what happens? V'chotfaso sheina, and sleep overcomes him. V'nimtza yashin kol halayla, and they'll find that he was sleeping the whole night. So we don't want that to happen. So therefore, the rabbi said, no, you have to say Shema earlier. You have to say Shema by midnight. And that way, aval adam ba min asada ba'erev. Now a person will come back from the field in the evening. Nichnas lebeis haKnesses, and he'll go straight to shul. And imraga likros kara. If he knows how to learn chumash, if that's what he does, he'll learn some chumash. Vimraga lishnos shona. If he knows how to learn Mishnah and Gemara, he'll learn that. So he'll learn for a bit. Vikara kriya shema, and then he'll say Shema. Umispalel, and then he'll daven ma'ariv. Ve'ochel pitom mevarach, and then he'll eat dinner and bench. And so this way, by limiting the time that you have to say Shema, it will motivate people to just get it done, go straight to shul after work, learn, daven, and then go home to eat. As opposed to if you have all night, people might go home and say, I'll do it later, and then they'll fall asleep for the whole night and they'll miss their opportunity. And then the Brisa concludes, and it says, V'chola over al divrei chachamim chayav misa. And anybody who transgresses the word of the chachamim is chayav misa, is liable with their life. That's not in court, but that's seems from the heavens, that's the perspective of the chachamim, that if you transgress the words of the chachamim of the sages, you are liable with your life. Now, ask the Gemara, why is it that specifically here, everywhere else we don't say if you transgress the words of the chachamim, you're chayav misa. But here we do. Meaning there's lots of rabbinic ordinances, there's lots of rabbinic enactments, lots of siyagim, fences that the rabbis put up. We don't say every time, and if you don't listen to them, you're going to be chayav misa. Why does it specifically say over here that if you don't listen, you're liable with your life? It's not to say that in the other instances it's not true, but it doesn't bother saying it. Why specifically here does it go out of its way to say it? Says the Gemara, if you want, you could say because here we need an extra encouragement, because otherwise there's sleep which will overcome you. So there's something that's somewhat beyond your control that you're fighting, which is tiredness, and therefore the rabbis wanted to emphasize that to be very careful about this, because you might fall asleep and then you'll miss your chance. So they made it very serious. They say if you don't listen, you're liable with your life. V'bayisema, or alternatively you could say, that this Brisa was coming to dispute the opinion that Ma'ariv is a rishus, it's optional. Kamash Malon dechova. This Brisa would come to teach you that it is actually an obligation. So this is a reference to a Gemara later, and or a Mishnah really, I think, and a Gemara, and there's going to be a machlokas. Actually, I'm not sure if it's a Mishnah. Yeah, I think it's just the Gemara. But it's a machlokas tanaim, a machlokas between the sages of the Mishnah, if Ma'ariv is an obligation, or if Ma'ariv is a rishus, it's optional. Now, even the opinion that this is optional, we'll see when we get there, it's not really optional. And practically speaking, nowadays it's being accepted as an obligation. Either way, but that's there is a dispute about that. And this Brisa, by adding in, if you transgress the words of the Chacham, you're chayav misa, would be coming to tell you that this Brisa holds that Ma'ariv is an obligation. If it was optional, we wouldn't say that. Now, it could be that it was said about Shema. Shema is definitely not optional, but the Gemara interprets in this answer that the reason why it went out of its way to add that extra warning is to bring out that we hold that Ma'ariv is, that again, we, being this Brisa, the author of this Brisa, holds that Ma'ariv is in fact an obligation, and therefore if you transgress the words of the Chachamim, you're chayav misa, and so be very careful with this. Okay. Amar Mar. Now the Brisa had said, Kara Kriya Shema Mispala, that first you recite Shema in the evening, and then you daven Ma'ariv, then you say Shmona Esrei. So says the Gemara, Misayeh Leil Rabbi Yochanan. This Brisa is a support for the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, because Rabbi Yochanan said, Ezeu ben Olam Haba, who is someone who is a ben Olam Haba, a member of the World to Come Club, who is deserving to be in the world to come, Zehasomich Geula L'Tfila Shel Arbis. That's a person who is Somich Geula L'Tfila, who juxtaposes the mention of the redemption with Shmona Esrei. So in Ma'ariv, at the end of Shema, we mention the redemption from Egypt, and then we we have further mentions of in the next paragraph. So we talk more about the redemption from Egypt, and then we have Shmona Esrei. And Rabbi Yochanan says, now everybody agrees that that's important in the morning at Shachris, that there's a halacha that one is supposed to be Somech Gula Tefillah, juxtapose the mention of redemption with the Shmona Esrei, and that's agreed at Shachris in the morning, but by Ma'ariv in the evening it's a machokas here, it's a dispute. Rabbi Yochanan says that it is a requirement, or at least if you do it, you're a Ben Olam Haba, and our Brisa seems to support that opinion, because our Brisa said, you say Shema, and then you daven Ma'ariv. So you go from Shema and the mention of the Exodus, Geula, into Tefillah, into your Shmona Esrei. The reason that this would be important, why is it good to be Samech Geula Tefillah? So Rashi says that the idea is that you first praise Hashem and thank Him for redemption, and once you do that, so then you can make your requests of Hashem and Shmona Esrei. Once you've already praised Him, and He's drawn near to you, and He's close, and He's listening, so then you can ask for your request. So another possible understanding is that when you mention Geula, when you mention redemption, so you are expressing thanks to Hashem. And when you express thanks, you recognize that you owe something. That's what gratitude is. You owe something. And if you owe something, so then you can go straight into tefillah. Tefillah is not just about asking. It's about avodah, service of Hashem, which is its own discussion how it is, but it's service of Hashem. So you go from hoda'ah, from thanking Hashem for the redemption, from thanking Hashem to this recognition. Part of hoda'ah is recognition that I owe something, and then you can go from there to avodah, to tefillah, to service Hashem. That's how I pay Him back, so to speak. Of course, it's for our benefit, but that's where we serve Him. That's where we, so to speak, give back. Okay, that's the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi Omer. Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi disagrees. He says tefilos be'emtza tiknum, that the tefilos are in between shemas. The three tefilos are bookended by Shema. So in the morning, Shema precedes Shmona Esrei. That he agrees. That's how we do it, and that he agrees to. But at nighttime, then you have Shema, Shachris, Mincha, Ma'ariv, Shmona Esrei, and Shema will be after the Ma'ariv, Shmona Esrei, according to Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Ask the Gemara, Rabbi Miflagi, what is this machlokas about? Whether you should do Shema before Ma'ariv, Shmona Esrei, or after Ma'ariv, Shmona Esrei. So, Iba Yisei Makra, Iba Yisei Masvar. If you want, you can say it's a machlokas, is a dispute over how to read a verse, how to read the pasuk. Iba Yisei Masvar, it could be a debate in logically which one makes more sense. Iba Yisei Masvara. So it begins with the second suggestion. If you want, you can say it's a svara, it's a debate over logic. What makes more sense? Rabbi Yochanan Sava, Rabbi Yochanan, who said that you first mention, even in the evening, you first mention the redemption, and then you mention Rabbi Yochanan, who held that even in the evening there's a value of somech gula tefillah, of juxtaposing redemption with tefillah, before tefillah. That's because Rabbi Yochanan holds, Rabbi Yochanan Savar, Geula me'orta nami have, that the exodus from Egypt really was also at night. So when they left Egypt, they left in the morning, but it began at night. The plague of the firstborns and Paro saying get out. So it really began in the evening. So El Geula Ma'al Yisrael Habia Latzafer, the elevated Geula, the elevated redemption, the real redemption wasn't until the morning, but even in the evening there was a redemption. And so it seems Rabbi Yochanan is saying that when we say that you should be Somech Geula Tefillah, it's not just to remember the Geula, but it's to remember the Geula when it happened. at the time of day that it happened. So in the morning it happened. So for sure everybody agrees that in the morning we are somech gula tefillah. But Rabbi Yochanan said it concluded in the morning, but it began at night. And so there is an aspect of redemption that's relevant at night too. And therefore, there's still a value of somech gula tefillah even at night. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi Savar, Yeshua ben Levi says, Kivan de lohavya al mitzafra, since it only actually happened in the morning, lohavya gu'ula mal yasa, it's not a elevated redemption that happened at night. It's not something that's significant in terms of timing somech gula tefillah with it, and therefore there's no value of somech gula tefillah at nighttime. That's what Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi holds. And therefore, he doesn't say why he assumes, therefore, that Shema should be afterwards, but Shema is b'shach b'cha, it's when you lie down, it's just the last thing. V'baisema kra. Or if you want, you can say that they're arguing over a pasuk. Ushneim mikra echad darshan. They both expounded on the same verse. T'chsiv, it says, b'shach b'cha v'kumecha, that you say the Shema when you lie down and when you get up. Rabbi Yochanan savar makish shchiva lekima. Rabbi Yochanan holds that we compare the lying down to the getting up. Then makima kriya shema v'achkach tefillah. Just like in the morning when you get up, you first say Shema and then you have tefillah. So af shchiva nami kriya shema v'achkach tefillah. So too, when you lie down, you'll do it the same way. You'll do kriya shema and then tefillah. So it seems that, again, it's a given that in the morning you do Shema before Tefillah, because it's a given, everybody agrees that in the morning there's a value to be somech gula Tefillah. So it seems that that's still working in the background here. So once it's a given that in the morning you say Shema before Tefillah, so if we're going to compare b'shach b'cha to v'kumecha, so then it means that b'shach b'cha, when you lie down, will follow what you do in the morning. In the morning is already a given. And now we're going to compare them and say that it should be the same. So just like in the morning you say Shema and then you say Shemona Esrei, so too in the evening you say Shema and then you say Shemona Esrei. That is another possible explanation for Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi Savar, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi holds, Makish Shchiva Lekima, that yes, we compare lying down to getting up, but it's a different comparison. Ma kima kriya shema samachul mitaso. Just like when you get up, you say Shema adjacent to when you were lying in your bed. Meaning, you wake up, again, like we said, everybody agrees in the morning, Shema precedes Shemona Esrei. So, you wake up, and adjacent to getting out of bed, you say Shema. So just like in the morning, b'shach b'cha, when you lie down, your Shema is said adjacent to being in bed. So af shchiva nami, so too when you lie down at night, kriya shema samach mitaso, the recitation of Shema is adjacent to lying in bed, meaning it's the last thing you do before you go to bed. It's done after Shemona Esrei, says Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, and that could be derived from the same pasuk, just looking at when you wake up in a different way. That Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi says the comparison would be, just like when you wake up, you say Shema adjacent to when you were in bed, so to when you lie down, you say Shema adjacent to when you were in bed, which means that you're going to say Shemona Esrei Ma'ariv before you say Shema at night. Okay, Masiv Mar Breder Ravina. Mar Breder Ravina asked a contradiction from the following Mishnah. The Mishnah says, Ba'erev mevarich shtayim ufanel u'shtayim lacharel. The Mishnah says that when you say Shema in the evening, there are 2 brachos before and 2 brachos after. V'i amart ba'yu l'smoch, and if you say like Rabbi Yochanan, then you need to be samach gula l'tfilah, hagoka samach gula l'tfilah. If you have 2 brachos in Ma'ariv after you say Shema, then it's an interruption. You're not being samach gula l'tfilah. You're not juxtaposing the Shema, the redemption, the mentioning of the redemption at the end of Shema, and the mentioning and Shemona Esrei. There's brachos that interrupt. Because you need to say Ashkivenu. Now, just to note, right? There's 2 brachos. Here we say 3, but basically, for now, we'll say there's 2 brachos in Ma'ariv after Shema, like the Mishnah says, but one of them is about Geula. The first one is Ga'al Yisrael, is about Geula. It's about redemption. That one wouldn't be a question. That's not an interruption between Geula and Tefillah, because that's talking about Geula. The second bracha is the problem. The second bracha talks about Hashkivenu. It talks about that Hashem should put us to sleep in peace. That we should have a peaceful sleep. I mean, more than that, but it's the basic words. And protect us. We should be protected. So that's not about Geula. It's not about redemption. So it seems to be an interruption, and yet you do it. So it seems that there's not a value of Somech Geula Tefillah in the evening. Answers the Gemara. Amri, we can say, Kivan de Takino Rabbanon Hashkivenu. No, since the rabbis enacted that you should say that bracha, Ki Geula Arichta Damya. It's like an extended redemption. It becomes part of the package. If it's enacted by the rabbis to be part of the Ma'ariv service, then it becomes like you're just extending the discussion of redemption. So it could be that the Gemara is just saying that anything that's enacted by the rabbi is not considered an interruption. It could be that's what it's saying, as opposed to like if somebody would talk, that would be an interruption. But this is ordained. This is allowed. This is not just allowed, but required. So it's not considered an interruption. I did recently see or hear another idea. I think I read it somewhere that it's more than that. That the idea of being protected and in peace, which is what this bracha is about, is really a part of Geula, a part of redemption. If you have redemption, but then you don't have peace, then you don't have much redemption. You may have been out of the fire, but into the coals. Like it doesn't help you so much. So when it says it's Geula Arichta, it's an extension of the redemption. Its content is an extension of the redemption. Now, it seems to be saying it's only because the rabbis enacted it. We couldn't decide that on our own, that it would have that status, but since the Chachamim were masaking it, they established it, so we can view it as part of the redemption, the protection that follows. Says the Gemara, Di'ilote mahachi, because if you would not say that it's Kigu'ula Rifta, now this, what we're about to read, is a bit of a question on the shot that I just gave. Di'ilote mahachi, if you don't say that a blessing that's enacted by the rabbis is considered an extension of the tefillah, of the geula, of the mention of geula, so shachris hechimatzi samach. So how could we be samach geula tefillah? How could we juxtapose redemption with our tefillah in the morning? V'ha'amar Rabbi Yochanan, didn't Rabbi Yochanan say b'tefillah omer Hashem sefasai tiftach? Like at the beginning of Shema Esrei, you'd say, Hashem, please open my lips. And at the end you say, the words of my mouth should be accepted to you. But our question is really from the first part, that before you start your tefillah, you say something. You say, Hashem, Hashem, open up my lips and let my mouth tell your praise. That's not part of Shema Esrei. Isn't that an interruption between geula and tefillah? So rather there, what do you have to say? Since the rabbis enacted it, that's just an extension of your tefillah. And again, it's not random extension, it's connected to your tefillah, it's needed for your tefillah. It's not the tefillah itself, but it's almost an enabler of the tefillah. So and the rabbis established it, so it becomes an extension of the tefillah. So Hachanami, so here too, since the rabbis enacted that you should say the blessing of Hashkivenu, that Hashem should lie us down in peace and protection, that's considered an extension of the discussion of redemption. And I think still the pshat, the idea that we gave, is still good, because both of these, they relate. That's the point. It was enacted by the rabbis and they relate. This is an extension of the redemption to talk about protection. And so that's not considered interruption. And Hashem Sifasai Tiftach is an extension of Yishmon Esrei, because it relates to Yishmon Esrei and it's enacted by the rabbis. Okay. Now I think that the context of the next Gemara is that once Rabbi Yochanan told us that there's a certain type of a Ben Olam Haba, a member of the World to Come Club, is somebody who juxtaposes is Somech Gula Tefillah. So we have another example of something like that. Amar Belazar Amar Bavina, Kol Omer Tehillah LeDavid B'chol Yom Shalosh Pa'amim. Anybody who says the paragraph, the psalm of Tehillah LeDavid, which is what we call Ashrei, right? Ashrei Yisrael Yalucha Sela, and then Asher Mishkach Chalan, and then we say Tehillah LeDavid. That's the beginning really of that chapter of Tehillim, chapter 145. So if you say it 3 times every day, Muftach Lo Shu Ben Olam Haba, he can be confident that he's a member of the World to Come Club. Ask the Gemara, my Taima, what's the reason? What's so great about Tehillah LeDavid? So Ilema Mishum de Asya Ba'alef Beis, you might say that it's because it is in the order of the Aleph Beis, right? So it's Aramimcha Hashem Elkai HaMelech, B'chol Yom HaBercheka, Gadol Hashem, it's Aleph Beis Gimel, it goes through the Aleph Beis, the order of the Psukim. And apparently that's something really special. So maybe that's why, if you say you're a Ben Olam Haba, so if that's the case, ask the Gemara, Nema Ashrei Tamimei Derech. Then there's a different chapter you could say. You could say Ashrei Tamimei Derech, which is chapter 119, to Asya B'Tmanya Apin. That has the whole Aleph Beis 8 times. It's 176 verses. It has it 8 times. So if you really want, if you think Aleph Beis Tehillim that goes in the order of the Aleph Beis is so good, then say Kuf Yotes 3 times a day. Then you'll be really set. Ela Mishum, so rather, what is so great about Tehillah LeDavid, that if you say it 3 times, you're a Ben Olam Haba? It's because it has the verse, Hashem, you open up your hand and provide, you satiate, you satisfy all living things with what they desire. So you'll tell me that's why it's so great. Ask the Gemara, Nema Halal HaGadol. So then there's a different chapter you could say, Halal HaGadol, Hodul Hashem Ki Tov, Tichsibbe, because there it says, No Sing Lechem L'chol Basar, that Hashem gives bread to all flesh. So there's also mention that Hashem provides for everyone. So that one too, you should say, if what makes it so great is that it mentions that Hashem sustains all living things, well that chapter, Halal HaGadol, also contains, that's Kuf Lamed Vav 136, also contains a mention of how Hashem sustains all. So Ela Mishum Dis Beitarti. So rather it's because it has both. That's what's so great about Tehillah LeDavid. It has both, that it's in the order of the Aleph Beis, and that it mentions that Hashem sustains all living things. And the Pnei Yoshua explains when you say it 3 times, so that's like a chazaka. That chazaka is when you do something 3 times, it becomes like set. And so if you say this 3 times a day, then the lessons of it are set. The lessons that Hashem provides for everyone. And the significance of that it contains the Aleph Beis, so different explanations. But one of them, the Emes Yaakov, the Beit, which is the Nesivos, or Yaakov Melissa, he says that by using all the letters of the Aleph Beis, you're expressing that that you've said all you can, but there's more to say. And I've used all the letters, but there's certainly more to say. Others say that it's like a reference to the chashivos, the importance of Torah, that the letters of the Aleph Beis are what make up the Torah, and so by using all the letters of the Aleph Beis, you have this recognition of how great Torah is. So, in any event, the one who says these words 3 times a day can be confident if they take the lessons from it. That caveat, if they take the lessons from it, that they will be a ben olam haba. They'll be focused on the right things. The Pnei Yehoshua elaborates, a person who understands that Hashem provides for everyone, they don't spend their whole life just trying to acquire wealth. They can focus on the Aleph Beis, on the Torah, because Hashem provides. Okay. While we're talking about Ashrei, the Gemara continues, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Mipnei ma lo nemar nun ba'ashrei. Why is there no pasuk nun? We say it has all the Aleph Beis, but it skips the letter nun. So it goes from Malchus kol olamim, Mishatacha b'chol dar badar, that's mem. And then goes right to somech, to samech, mem, samech, it skips nun. Somech Hashem uchal noflim. So why does it skip nun? That's the Gemara's question. Answers the Gemara, because nun involves the falling of Sonei Yisrael, those who hate Israel, which really is a euphemism for Israel itself. Nun hints at the falling of Israel. Dirsiv, because the pasuk says in Amos, it says, Nafla lo sosif kum b'sulas Yisrael, that she's fallen, she will not continue to get up, the Virgin of Israel. So it talks about Israel falling. So nun is a letter we want to avoid because it talks about how Israel has fallen. That's the simple understanding. It doesn't have nun because we don't want to mention nun, which has to do with the falling of the Jewish people, at least in a pasuk. Then the Gemara says, well, first it says, B'ma'arava matartzi lahachi. In the West, in Eretz Yisrael, they read the pasuk a bit differently. Nafla velo sosif linpol. It says nafla lo sosif. They've fallen, and they won't continue to fall. Kum b'sulas Yisrael. Get up, O Virgin of Israel. So the first way to read it was, nafla, she's fallen, lo sosif kum, she won't continue to get up, b'sulas Yisrael, the Virgin of Israel. The way they read it in the West, in Eretz Yisrael, is nafla lo sosif, she will not continue to fall, and therefore, kum b'sulas Yisrael, get up, now it's time to get up. And so it's both a curse and a blessing. It's a curse because it means nafla lo sosif, you can't fall any further, but therefore get up, kum b'sulas Yisrael, now it's time to get up. You know, this is how the Vilna Gaon explains it, you know that when you hit rock bottom, you can only go up from here. And so there's a certain consolation in hitting rock bottom, in that you know that now you can only go up from here. Amar of Nachman bar Yitzchak. Nachman bar Yitzchak says, Afilu hachi, even so, even though we don't mention that in Ashrei nun because it talks about falling, Chazar David is samchan b'ruach hakodesh. David then continued and kind of supported them with Ruach HaKodesh and with divine inspiration. Shneimar, Samech Hashem Ucha Noflim. Hashem holds up all those who fall. So we didn't talk about anybody falling. We skipped the mention of people falling. But we do reference it because we say that Hashem is Somech those who fall. Hashem supports those who fall. So the Maharsha says that the idea that we don't mention it because it represents falling, so the Maharsha says it's not just that we don't want to mention falling. He says a different idea. He says that which we leave out, the mention of falling, is to tell you that we never really fall completely. We don't mention none because we don't mention that we fall because we don't fall completely. And that's why it continues to say, Somech Hashem Ucha Noflim, because Hashem supports those who fall. And so it's actually an idea of hope. We won't mention falling because anytime we fall, it's not a complete fall. There's always, the Jewish people will rise again. Somech Hashem Ucha Noflim. Hashem will support all those who fall. And like they read it in the West, Kum b'sulas Yisrael, get up, O Virgin Israel. Amar Rabbi Elazar bar Ravina. Rabbi Elazar bar Ravina said, continuing in quotes of Rabbi Elazar in the name of Avina or bar Ravina, Gadol mashnemer b'Michal yosfi mashnemer b'Gavriel. That which we say about the angel Michael is greater than that which we say about the angel Gavriel. Di'u b'Michael ksiv, because with regards to Michael it says, Vayaf Elai echad min ha-serafim. One of the seraphim, a seraphim is a type of angel, flew to me. This is in Yeshaya. Yeshaya says, one of the angels flew to me. Okay. V'yu gabi Gavriel ksiv, but in the context of Gavriel, the pasuk says, in Daniel, it says, V'ish Gavriel asher ha'isi b'chazon b'tchila mu'af biaf. Gavriel, who I saw in a dream, in a vision, mu'af biaf. He flew, 2 steps to fly. So Michael gets to his destination in 1. Vayaf, he flew. He flew, but Gavriel takes 2 steps. So it's greater that which it says about Michael than what it says about Gavriel, because Michael gets there in one flap, I guess, of his wings, spiritual wings, and Gavriel takes 2. Now, how do we know the first verse is about Michael? How do you know that echad min ha-serafim, that one of the seraphim, one of the angelic beings is, the seraphs, is, who's that? How do you know that's referring to Michael? Rabbi Yochanan, asya echad. We can learn it from a Gzeira Shava, comparison of the word echad in one, here to the word echad somewhere else. Here it says that one of the seraphim flew to me. Uksiv hasam, and it says over there, B'nei Michael echad hasarim harishonim. Michael was one of the Sarim Arishonim. So there it says it's Michael. He's Echad min ha-Sarim. He's one of the officers. And here it says Echad min ha-Serafim, one of the Seraphim. So we can derive that it's Michael also. Echad min ha-Sarim, Bala Azraini came to help me. And concludes the Gemara, Tana, we learn in a Braisa, Michael ba'achas. Michael gets to his purpose, his goal, his mission in 1 flap. Gavriel b'shtayim, Gavriel takes 2. Eliyahu ba'arba, Eliyahu Hanavi takes 4. U'malach hamavis b'shmona, Malach hamavis, the angel of death, takes 8. U'v'shas hamagefa ba'achas, but if it's a time of plague, then the Malach hamavis, the angel of death, only takes 1. What is this talking about? What is this whole idea of it takes 1 flap, it takes 2, 4? So the Maharsha says that Michael is the angel of mercy, and so Hashem's mercy comes fast, easy, without anything holding it up. That's 1 flap. Gavriel represents din, justice, ish, and so for him, Hashem takes more time. It's more deliberated, and so it's 2 flaps. Eliyahu Hanavi has certain angelic qualities to him. The Maharsha mentions the story of Eliyahu Hanavi where he revived a boy, and it says there that he put pressure on him 4 times. So it took him 4 steps. And the Malach HaMavis, the angel of death, the most severe punishment, takes 8 steps. That's very much deliberated on. It's not rushed. Except once there's already death in the air, there's a plague going on, so then person is more at risk, and the Malach HaMavis could act quickly in just 1 step. Okay, we'll pick up from here in Mirz Hashem next time.